Fighting games to me are an almost tragic genre. Games can and often do induce emotions and experiences exclusive to their medium. Fighting games are very special in this, because the unique thrill they bring is something I can't really see any other type of game doing as frequently and effectively as fighting games. Sadly, while the rise of competitive online games has skyrocketed in recent years, fighting games seem to be a genre that alienates its potential audiences, even when done incredibly right. Dragon Ball FighterZ is a fighter that decides to forget the formalities of introducing new players to the genre of fighting games, and just dives them into the real lasting appeal of fighting games by simplifying and designing its game around innovating on archaic modes of input. The accessibility that easy to perform inputs give to Dragon Ball FighterZ is one of the biggest praises the game has gotten critically from not only casual or new fighting game players, but from fighting game veterans alike. Fighting game inputs are a double-edged sword when it comes to game design. In a sense, they're brilliant, since applying such a large array of inputs into each singular button gives an overwhelming amount of options for the player at any given moment. Yet, the fact of the matter is that the mere action of performing these inputs can be an irritating and challenging experience. As much as a quarter circle motion can come as almost second nature to a fighting game fan, I really think we all cringe and fret seeing and having to implement pretzels to some degree. Dragon Ball FighterZ decides to sidestep these intimidating requests away from newcomers to the genre, while still allowing for enough options and interesting possibilities during a fight to please anyone that wants to dedicate some real time and effort into dancing the dance that is player-to-player matches. Assists being a prime example of interesting options. Obviously, FighterZ isn't rethinking the entire design structure of 3x3 fighters, but it being thought out from the ground up to deliver a fair, fun, and thank God clean experience to tag team fighters is one of its crowning achievements. As intense as the game is, if you've seen other 3x3 fighters, you might notice they tend to be a bit heated. These kinds of fighting games tend to be extremely alienating to new players, yet FighterZ uses the benefits of the options that a game of this type brings to cut some fat and clean the process in its presentation and display to offer a more enjoyable experience, always having stops and moments of breathe and rest, like the intro animations after a character dies, cinematic supers that allow for a moment to breathe, and of course automatic combos. Automatic combos are something that people seem very contentious about, expressing that after learning the ropes, they become useless, and the only use real players have for them is to differentiate noobs and plebs from the crowd so they can punish them hard. While I do think overusing auto combos is an easy way to spot novice players, I think that is the case for any readable technique in fighting games, and that auto combos actually serve another more subtle purpose. Of course, having low entry, high damage output commands is something fighting games have been using forever now, to smoothen the experience of new players. But FighterZ's auto combos also serve as a service that really benefits the 3x3 genre of fighting games, breathing time. As mentioned, 3x3 fighters are messy and fierce, leaving very little room to properly parse yourself in the middle of a match, which kind of breaks the flow of mind games, fighting games' most precious asset. It's easier to read and plan accordingly in a match when giving yourself a second or two to safely think is possible. And this is exactly what auto combos bring to higher level play. If a player is struggling to defend or read their enemy, landing an auto combo will give them an automatic 3 to 4 seconds of thinking time without breaking from the action of the fight at all. This while still delivering some decent damage. Obviously, overusing these against players that know what they're doing will get you quick and swiftly punished. But using these sparsely can be a great benefit for any player. An argument that could be made to this is that learning combos by yourself will result in the same effect, and while I would agree performing combos can usually demand a lot of attention out of most players, negating the breathing room effect auto combos hold. This mentality of taking a step back to focus before coming back seems to be a design concept peppered all around the matches of this game, having things like the 4-second animations that play after a character is killed and the next fighter tags in, leaving both players at a fair distance from each other, allowing for players to not feel overwhelmed even when being floored, almost balancing matches midway through them without feeling limited to players who are dominating. Cinematic supers also tend to pace themselves to be easily analyzed. Never would you miss or feel overwhelmed by supers, since they tend to be so clear in their animations and priority to the stage camera. A choice especially important since stacking super after super is such a vital and gratifying mechanic of this game. The simple fact that the game was chosen to be a 3x3 fighter cuts down a lot of the potential grief by its mere nature. A big problem with fighting games online is finding an abundance of long, almost impossible to break auto combos, essentially resulting in fights starting and ending with the player that can land a chain of combos they have memorized onto the other player. Just not fun at all. The fact that Fighter Z is a 3x3 negates the irritation this can cause a bit. If a character gets caught in one of these long combos, he becomes less grieving than in a 1v1 game, since this character represents a third of your overall life instead of all of it. Also, if a player is performing these types of combos on another player, defeating the character will usually leave the player without the option of being able to abuse these types of combos, since these usually require careful timing of assist attacks, which can only be performed by characters that are alive. Not to mention how finite these attacks become thanks to the timer. This leads to, again, mind games, being something that can't be overlooked neither by auto combo or abusive infinite combos, allowing for interesting and blood-pumping comebacks to be frequent. Overall, Fighter Z is a great game with the ability to captivate new and old fighting game players alike. It's designed with enough thought around making it a smooth experience without sacrificing the core pull fighting games have that I would recommend to anyone remotely interested in the intense thrills of competing online with others to check it out. Now, if only ArcSys could work on the lobbies and load times. Cause God, if there's something to not get excited about in this game, it's the lobby. Get on it, Motomura. Come on, give me a break here, baby. Yeah. Bye-bye, I love you, bye.